Welcome back to New Day. A 1-2 punch for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The NFL team lost 31-20 to Philadelphia Eagles Sunday. But much more serious this morning, they're trying to contain a dangerous outbreak. 3 members of the Bucs have been diagnosed with MRSA, a staph infection that is resistant to many antibiotics. This is what many people are calling, the superbug. So should the league be worried about the outbreak, and what does that mean for you and I? Let's go to Dr. Jennifer Caudle joining us for more this morning. How serious is this? 3 members of the team now have it, and this is the superbug that many people fear. So what are they dealing with at this moment?
Right. Well, so we're talking about MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. This is a staph bug, as you mentioned, that's resistant to certain antibiotics. This is something we're seeing more in the communities. This is something that we used to see in hospitals, and now it's cropping up into communities nationwide. Really what we need to be talking about here is prevention, how to prevent it, how it's also spread, and things like that, and then also how to treat it. Because it is something that we do see crop up in certain environments, not only sports athletes, but military, daycare centers, places where there's
what
people
is it
in
about
close
those?
environments.
What is it? Is it just a close environment situation?
It's not only the close environment situation, but it's also the fact that, let's say, with athletes, we're talking about an environment where there's a lot of friction and person-to-person contact, which can actually cause lesions or cuts in the skin that can make it more likely for the bacteria to get in and cause an infection. So that's one of the reasons why we tend to see this, or we often see this in athletic groups.
And also the razors, sharing of towels, that's also an issue when it comes to this.
So, yes.
I wanted to ask you, it says here, and this is a research that I had, that about 1 in every 3 people carry staph infections in their nose, but about 2 in 100 people carry MRSA strain. So how rare is it, or if it's rare, how common is it?
So remember, we have bacteria that just lives on us, that it's just sort of, we're colonized with it. And in MRSA or staph, we can actually be colonized with the bacteria, and it doesn't cause us any problems at all. The way that we actually contract the infection of MRSA, and we should also talk about the types of infection it causes, but is if we have a break in the skin that can cause the bacteria to get in and then cause us an infection.
I want to hear about the kinds of infection that it causes, especially because I'm very paranoid and hypochondriacal. But for the teams, because a lot of these staph infections wind up being on their arms. Are they going to spread to other players? Are going to move around? You have to quarantine? I mean, what's the deal?
Right. So MRSA can cause a number of different types of infections. They range. Hospital MRSA infections tend to be bloodstream infections. MRSA can get into the bloodstream, actually. It can cause pneumonia as well. Sometimes we get infections at surgical sites. These are often for hospitalized people. But then for people out in the community, we call this community-acquired MRSA. These might be young, healthy people with no medical problems at all. They're just living their lives. Often that type of MRSA infection manifests itself as a skin lesion. You talked about this. I have patients in my office come in, I'd say at least a couple times a month with these. And oftentimes the way they describe it is as a spider bite. Doc, I think I got a spider bite. And the way it will look, these MRSA skin infections, is it'll be like a boil or an abscess. Painful. Almost think of like a big pimple. It's painful, it's often red, it's warm to touch, and it can actually start to drain. These can actually become quite severe. So that's the type of infection that we often see in the community environment.
It seems like we're hearing about it again, because you remember back in around 2006, we were reporting so much of it. People were afraid. I actually stopped going to the gym for a while and started working out at home because I was afraid, but then you didn't hear about it for a while. And
it's still been going on. It's been going on, and like I said, for the last 10, 15 years, we're seeing more of it, not just in the hospital, but come out into the environment and in these certain populations. Remember, we get it from contact with an infected wound by sharing utensils.
So what does that mean for football players and teams?
With that in mind,
and for just going to the gym, too.
Well, I'll tell you what the CDC says, and this is really important to keep in mind. The CDC says that it's okay to keep playing sports. And we're talking about multiple sports. Remember, wrestlers get this. Remember, other sports players that have really close contact. The CDC says it's okay to keep playing as long as one is able to keep the wound properly covered. That means no leakage, no drainage, and that the wound is not likely to get injured in playing the sport. And also, I would add that as long as the infection is not extensive or widespread, those are things to keep in mind. But of course, you want to take each case on an individual basis.
Dangerous, though. Nonetheless, it's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.